welcome to Seal Rescue Ireland. My name is Nikki, I'm the Education Manager here, and welcome to episode 3 of our 8-part miniseries. In today's episode, we're going to be talking to you a little bit more about plastics, but more specifically, plastic entanglement and how that can be dangerous too. It's a lot of information to cover, so let's get started. A large threat that seals and other marine wildlife face is getting entangled in plastics, more specifically, discarded fishing gear that looks a little bit like this. Entanglements can be really dangerous for a lot of different types of animals because it can prevent them from doing everyday things that they need to do to stay alive, like swimming, hunting, or flying. Seals gain weight really quickly when they're young to make sure that they have a nice thick blubber layer to help keep them warm in our cold seas. So you can probably imagine that having something wrapped around your body while you're gaining all that weight would not be ideal at all. In November 2019, we had a seal that came into our center called Pine. He actually came into our center with this wrapped around his neck. Pine's entanglement left him with a lot of big wounds. His entanglement was really thick and really heavy. We think it might have been an old fishing line that got lost at sea. Luckily, we were able to remove the net, heal his wounds, and release him back into the wild where he belongs. We've also had seals come into our center entangled in a different type of fishing gear, like this. This is called a monofilament fishing line. You can see here that it's really thin, and that means that it's particularly dangerous to animals because it can slice through their skin and cause really deep wounds. This line was actually cut off one of our seals' necks called Honeysuckle, who came into our center in February 2020. Honeysuckle's fishing line was wrapped really tightly around her neck and gave her a really deep wound. In order to heal that wound, we used a combination of Manuka honey and a blue spray to make sure that her wound didn't get infected. So her nickname for a really long time was Smurf. The blue won't stay on forever, and it will wash off eventually. We were able to heal her wounds and release her back into the wild where she belongs too. Thankfully, we were able to give the seals that came into our center the proper care after their entanglements, but not all wildlife is this lucky. To give you an idea of just how dangerous an entanglement can be for animals like seals, let's go do a fun experiment with our friend scientist Shiva.
Thank you, Nikki. Hi there. As you've learned today, plastic entanglements can be quite dangerous for our seals as they are growing. In order to give you an idea of how plastic entanglements can affect our seals, I've prepared a little experiment for us outside. Let's go take a look.
Here's my assistant Yannick doing the experiment. As Nikki said before, seals gain a lot of weight really quickly when they're young to make sure that their blubber layer is nice and thick. Look at how fast our seals are growing. Now look at the seal on the right with the entanglement. Do you see how tight the entanglement is on its body? But it keeps on growing around it.
As another example of how entanglements can cause problems for seals, we have a story about a seal called Merida for you. Merida came into our center a few years ago with a fishing rope wrapped around her neck.
That fishing rope caused so much pressure around her neck that it actually caused her eyeball to bulge out of her head and had to be surgically removed.
Luckily, the surgery went well and we were able to release Merida back into the wild. And with that, back to you, Nikki.
Now that you've got a better understanding of what happens when seals can get entangled and how dangerous it can be, let's talk a little bit more about ghost nets. Ghost nets are one of the biggest threats to marine wildlife. They're essentially pieces of lost fishing gear that continue to catch marine wildlife. Ghost nets are responsible for the deaths of millions of marine species each year, and they make up 46% of ocean plastic. They have an impact on seals, sharks, rays, dolphins, whales, turtles, birds, crabs, fish, and even coral. In episode 2, we talked about the different types of ways that you can become a more conscious consumer when it comes to plastic. But what about all of the plastic that's in our environment already? Seals are really inquisitive, especially as pups. So if you ever see anything out in nature that looks like it might be potentially harmful to marine wildlife or any other wildlife in general, make sure you pick it up and make sure that it's disposed of properly. Here at our center, we do a lot of 2-minute beach cleans on our lunch breaks, or quick litter picks in the woods in the area around our center. We want to encourage everyone to do the same. So that's going to be this week's activity. I want you to do a litter pick of either your back garden, your neighborhood, or a natural green space that's close to you. But you'll need a few items to get started. You will need gloves, bags, litter pickers if you have them, and if the weather's nice, make sure that you have a hat and some sunscreen. At the time of filming this video, Ireland is currently in lockdown due to coronavirus. So if you do go outside and do any of these activities, it's really important for you to stay safe and to always follow the guidelines that are put in place by your local government. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you learned a little bit more about plastic entanglements and how they can be dangerous to our seals and to other marine wildlife. And I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about what we can do to keep our oceans and our environment clean and healthy. In our next episode, we're going to be talking to you a little bit about water pollution and the kinds of impacts that it has on marine wildlife. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media channels. We're at Seal Rescue Ireland on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and we're at Seal_Rescue on Twitter. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe. Let's do this together. Bye everyone.